What if we could avoid unnecessary meetings? You know what I'm talking about. Those meetings that we have every week to check the progress on some specific project where people go and basically there's no feedback at all to talk about. Can we automate that? Let me show you. The first thing we need to think about is what the process would look like. What I'm going to show you is basically a rather extreme example of things that we can do with Power Automate. And in this case, we're basically going to decide if a meeting is worth having or not, based on feedback provided upfront by different owners of different deliverables. The process looks like this. Basically, what I'm showing you in the screen is the whole process, and as you can see, it's a closed process. It would start with a request for feedback. That request for feedback would basically send an email to the owners of the different deliverables saying, hey, do you have any feedback? Please provide it and tell us if we need any alignment or not. Once that feedback is provided, we will check how many people said that there was an alignment necessary and how many said that the alignment was not necessary at all. Based on that, we will decide if we send a reminder to everybody saying, hey, the meeting is going to happen, be aware of it, or we're just going to remove the meeting for this week, move it to next week, and also send everyone an email saying, hey, the meeting is canceled, we're moving it to next week. After that, on Sunday, we're going to automatically archive the feedback for that specific week. That way, we will be able to tell every week what feedback was there for that specific week in case we need to go back to check something. We will archive that, we will clean the feedback, and we will start the process again on Monday. On Monday, we will request the feedback and so on. Let me show you what we need to have on SharePoint so that all of this works, and then we go into the actual flow in Power Automate. Our SharePoint can look like this. This is basically a SharePoint list where we have the different deliverables. People can have their description, different information that we need for those deliverables. The important part that we need here is who is the deliverable assigned to, or who is the owner of that deliverable. Then a column where they will provide their feedback. It's a free text column. They just write whatever they want to write. And another column where they select yes or no, basically saying, yes, we need to have a review, or no, we don't need to have a review. This is all we need on SharePoint. The other thing that we need is another list that looks exactly the same. This is the list that we will use to archive the feedback week on week. And the only difference is that we'll have one other column that is going to tell us when the feedback was archived. Let's see how to do the whole thing in Power Automate. This is the whole flow. You see that it's rather long. So let's go one by one so we understand what's happening in each one of the elements so that you can reproduce it as is or change whatever you feel necessary on your own project. Now, what I'm going to show you again is an example. So there's no need to do exactly the same. It's just for you to get ideas on things that can be done with Power Automate. The first step of everything is to have a recurrent flow. In Power Automate, we cannot do those circle flows that I was showing you before, but what we can do is one flow that is triggered automatically on a specific date or on a time frequency. So for that, we will look for this trigger, recurrence, and then on our case, we set the interval to 7 days, which is at the time zone, and the start time, and basically when it's the start time. So in this case, it will be every Monday at 8 in the morning. Once the flow is triggered, the first thing we need to bring, basically, the first information we need is what are the deliverables that we need feedback on. For that, we're going to use get items for SharePoint, and we're going to look for the site address. We're going to look for the list that we're going to look into. And then I added one filter. It's not necessary to have this filter, but it's a good practice whenever we get these get items, because even if you only have 3 elements like I do, you will probably get a pop-up message. It's not an error, but it's a warning telling you, hey, there's no filter. This would mean that if you have thousands and thousands of rows in that list, you will bring all of them. In this case, it's not something we need to worry about. but it's important to know. My filter is basically progress. It's not equal to completed. This is an old data filter. So basically we tell this is the name of the column we're looking into that list. This is the condition, this case not equal. We could always look for equal, EQ. If you look for all data filters, you'll find all the ones in it. And then the actual value that we're looking for. In this case, if I go back to my list, you can see that we have 3 deliverables, but one of them is completed already. So we don't want to know anything about this one because it's already done. We don't need to request feedback again for this one. With that in mind, we right now have an array, basically a matrix that is going to be with all the information that we have in our list, with the filters that we have selected before. And what we're going to do is send an email to each owner of each deliverable. We basically input the send email and we will automatically get the for each. If you don't get it automatically, you can always bring it on your own. It's no issue. It's basically one of these. If you go to controls, you will have it here, apply to each. Now, on the send an email, we need to first decide who are we going to send it to. In this case, we're using the column assigned to that email, and it's this column here. This is the column that we were using on our list, that it's telling us who is the owner, and from this column we can have multiple information because these are users from Microsoft. Therefore, we can have the name, the email, and other information related to your Microsoft account. We're grabbing just the email because that's basically what we need to send the email. Then we put whatever subject we need and whatever is our body. I also added the actual name, the same, assign it to, and the display name of the person who is owning that deliverable. We will send them this feedback, and basically we're telling them, hey, remember to provide feedback, and here's where you provide feedback. You can also add the link if you want. We're going to wait until Wednesday to send a reminder. This way, if someone forgot or they were super busy when they got the email on Monday, they have an opportunity before Thursday, that's when we're having our recurrent meeting, to decide what are they going to do, if they're going to provide feedback or not. How do we do this delay? We're going to look for an action that it's basically delay. And it's going to tell us, hey, how much you want to wait and what's the time you need. In our case, we're going to wait X amount of days, let's say 2 days, and we just select it like this. I'm going to remove it right now because the one that I have is in minutes, basically, so I can test the whole process to know that it's working. After that, we're going to do exactly the same that we did on Monday. Basically, send an email to each one of the owners, telling them, hey, this is a reminder, remember to provide feedback for your deliverable. We're going to have the meeting on Thursday. This looks exactly the same as the previous one. We just changed a little bit of the body saying, hey, if you already provided your feedback, you can ignore this email. There's no need for you to provide more feedback. You could also add elements in between to avoid sending the email to those people that have already provided some feedback. That's something I didn't include here. You will see later how you could probably do that. But that's something we didn't have in mind here, but that's something you could also add on your process. Now, we have sent those emails on Wednesday morning, and we know that it's on the morning because the whole flow was triggered also in the morning of Monday. Therefore, if we wait X amount of hours after everything is triggered here, probably maybe some minutes will have passed, but we're not talking hours. So we know that the email on Wednesday, the reminder is going to also be sent in the morning. We're going to wait until Thursday morning, and in Thursday morning, and this is basically the same delay as before, we're just changing, instead of waiting 2-3 days, we're going to wait just 1 day. Again, I have it in minutes to be able to test, but it's as simple as doing this that you have right here. On Thursday morning, what we're going to do is get all the items again. And we're doing this because inside this flow will never stop to check again new values. So if we run these get items at the beginning, the information that we have from those items is the one that was there on Monday. Therefore, we need to run it again to be able to get what are the updates that we got. So we're going to run exactly the same get items to the same site address, to the same list, and with the same filters. These get items will get us all the information that we had previously plus the updates. The next step, once we have all the items updated, we're going to filter those that requested to have the feedback meeting or the review meeting. For that, what we're going to do is a filter array. Inside this filter array, we're going to bring the body of the get items. And from the body of the get items, we're going to look into this field. And if we highlight it like this, it's basically feedback provided is this one that here says review necessary. And we're going to look at all of those that are true. Basically, we're going to look into how many said yes to having the meeting. I know it's a little bit confusing. Here, this field will be yes, no, or it will be a tick if I actually select it. You see, it's a tick. If it's like this would be a yes. Or if it's empty, it's basically a no. But here it's true or false. Basically, it's selected or not selected. It's a little bit confusing. That's the way SharePoint works. So what we're going to do is look for that field and grab those that the value is equal to true. This way, from the 3 elements that we got on our list, we first removed the ones that were completed, and now we're removing all of those that didn't request feedback. Once we have that same list and only those that request to have that feedback alignment, we're going to use this formula. Basically, it's a compose that it's going to tell us how many people requested to have that alignment meeting, that feedback meeting. And for that, we're basically going to look at the length of the array that we have previously filtered. Again, might be a little bit confusing, stay with me. So what we do is look at the length of the output of the previous element, basically the output of this filter array. With this, I'm going to skip this one in between. We're going to go for a condition. This condition is basically going to tell us true or false to this. To having the output of this compose, basically to having the number of feedback requested with an alignment requested being greater than 0. If that's true, then we go through this route. If it's false, we go through the other route. Basically, what we're trying to do here is saying, hey, there's one person that requested to have the alignment meeting. If that's the case, one or more, then we will have the meeting. If nobody, basically, if 0 people requested to have the alignment, we're going to cancel the meeting and move it into next week. Before we do that, and in order to make the whole flow more efficient, because this step could be done inside of this condition, but it's better to do it outside. It's more efficient this way. What we're going to do is look for our meeting. For this, the first thing that we do is grab our calendar. If you have your Outlook connected, you will already be able to grab your calendar. If you have multiple calendars, you'll have to look for the name of at least one of them that has that meeting that you're looking for. Then the next thing you're going to look at is the start date and the end date or time. And this is basically going to tell us from when to when you want to look for that meeting. In our case, and just as an exercise, because this really makes no sense, but it's an exercise, we're going to do the following. Our start time is going to be right now, basically UTC now, minus 3 days. These add days is basically going to add or subtract as many days as we say. In this case, we are subtracting 3 days. So what we're saying is we're looking for any meeting with a start time 3 days before today. So anything from 3 days ago until today, it's included, or even after that. And the end time is going to be the same, but 3 days forward. So we're looking at the window of today, 3 days before and 3 days forward. This way we make sure that everything in the week, we're capturing it. In reality, you wouldn't need to have this start time. This start time makes no sense because basically if you're going to look past, that meeting will have already happened and there's no need to cancel the meeting because it's already there or would have been already cancelled. But for sure we need this end time. And this end time, what we can do, if we're moving something with quite some time from the meeting, we can always add here like 7 days and we'll basically look at the next following week. I'm going to give it at 3 days. The next thing we're going to look for, if you go to show all, you will get all the different information that you can get from all the events, all the meetings that you have in your calendar. And we're going to look at those meetings that have the subject that we're looking for. The subject is nothing else than the title of your meeting. And what we're looking is subject that is equal to test event. That's the event that I'm using in my calendar just to be able to show you this. This could be project review, feedback review, alignment review, whatever name you have in your meeting, you will put here. With this, what we're basically doing is look for all the events that started at least 3 days ago and that end at least 3 days from now, where their subject or their name is basically test event. This will bring us the ID of all those events. If we do this correctly, it should only be one of them, but it could be multiple. So let's make sure that the meeting that we're looking for is unique. There's nothing else that has that exact name. And this has to be exact. You cannot put contains or stuff like that. You can, there's other filters to that, but I recommend you that you do equal. That way you make sure it's just the meeting that you're looking for. Okay, now we know how many people requested to have the alignment meeting and we have the ID of the meeting that we're looking to have or not have. So if we have at least one person that requested to have that alignment meeting, this condition that I presented you before, basically that at least one person is telling us that they want the meeting, that's going to be true. And what we're going to do is send an email to everybody saying, hey, the meeting is going to happen. This is just a reminder, we're not canceling the meeting. The condition here of who are you sending it to, you can add whoever you want. You can also bring the information from the meeting. You could also add an element here to get all the information from this calendar view. In fact, maybe if I look for it, we might have it. We can have the organizer. We can have the required attendees. So you can directly select from here everybody that you would like to send that email to. Then whatever subject and the body of your email with the link to the meeting or whatever. Now, what happens if nobody requests to have the meeting? Therefore, we need to cancel the meeting. If that's the case, we need to first update the event. We're not canceling it. We're not deleting the event. We're moving the event. And then we're going to send an email to everybody saying, hey, the meeting has been canceled. We're moving it to next week. So what we need to do is update the event. We're going to grab our calendar and the ID that we have brought from these get calendar view events. If you basically click on the element and go here, you should have it. It is this one here, ID. As I was telling you before, there can be multiple events that have the same name. Therefore, Power Automate automatically, as it doesn't know if there's one or there's 1,000, it will always bring this for each. In this case, we only have one, so we don't have to worry. That's why I told you to make sure the name of the event is unique. So, as I was saying to you, we're going to put the ID of the event. We're going to keep the same subject. You need to fill all the elements, otherwise the whole event will basically be moved, but it will be blank. So you're going to add the same name. You're going to add the same time zone. Everything can be brought from what we already got before. And we're going to add these two formulas. It's the same formula I was telling you before to look for the event, but it's a different use. Here we're going to also add times to the start time of our event. And basically what we're telling it is, hey, the start time is going to be the same, but 7 days from now. And the same for the end time. I want that the event ends at the same time, but 7 days from now. This way, if we move the start time and the end time, the whole meeting gets moved forward without making it longer or shorter. The rest of the elements, you can keep them as they are. You can add other elements here as the required attendees, all the optional information. If you have this information, it's important that you add it because you brought it from the previous event. So you would come here and go to this get calendar view events, go to required attendees, add it there, the same for optional and the rest of the information. You have to input all the same exact information you are getting from this get calendar view. I'm not doing it right now because this event is basically blank, but you should add all the information that you have there. This way you make sure that you're moving the meeting, but you're not modifying anything else. After that, we're going to just send an email, the same email as we did in the true, but in this case, we're just changing the body and the title saying, hey, we're canceling the meeting, it gets moved to next week. Now we have canceled or we had the meeting. So what do we do next? In order for the whole flow to keep running on a recurrent basis, what we need to do is wait until, let's say, Sunday, because nobody will be working, and restart the whole process again. In order to restart the whole process again, we need to clean our table where people are providing the feedback so that they can provide new feedback, and also archive this feedback from this week somewhere else so that if we need to look at the feedback provided some weeks ago, we can always have that. How do we do that? Again, we first delay it until X amount of days. There's another delay that you can also use and might be more intuitive for other people. That is the delay until. This delay until, you basically are telling exactly the timestamp that you want to delay until. And you're saying, hey, I want to delay until Sunday at, 12 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. This might be more intuitive for some people. It's up to you. Let me remove it. Okay, let's say we had added already the delay that we want. And the same thing we did before. We're going to get the items that we have from the list. Again, why are we doing this? Because there could be people that provided feedback after the meeting and we still want to keep that feedback. So we do exactly the same thing, same site address, same list of names, same filter. Nothing changes here. Once we have this, we need to do the following. We're going to create on the list that we're going to use to archive our feedback as many rows as deliverables we're looking into. So if we had 3 deliverables that we're looking into week on week, on our work progress tracker archive, we're going to create 3 rows. But we have one condition here, and it's that if something was completed, we don't want to archive anything there, because probably the week that it was going to basically tick as completed, that's when we got feedback for it, and we don't need to keep on archiving that. So, as I was telling you, with this filter, we would have already gotten the ones that are not completed. And the next thing to do is that for each row that we got here, we're going to create a new item. But where are we going to create this new item? In the same site address, but in a different list. We were grabbing everything from the work progress tracker, and that's it. And now we're moving everything into the work progress tracker archive. What are we going to do with the information? Each and every one of these fields is going to be exactly the same as whatever comes from the get items to. So the title is the title, the description is the description, the progress value is the progress value, the priority value is the priority value, so on, so on, so on. And the archive date is going to be UTC now. If we come here, in our fix, UTC now, this one is the one we're looking for. Why? Because basically we want to archive the last data that we have. One thing to have in mind here, you probably want to format this. So how do we format that? We come here, format the date time. We now add the UTC now, and then the format that we want to provide. Let's say date, month, year. And we add this formula. This way we make sure we don't have the time, we just have the date. It's as simple as that. What this will do is create as many elements that are not completed in our archive table. It would move all the feedback from our feedback table to our archive table. And then we're going to update our feedback table. And what we're going to do is go to the site address, go to the list for the feedback, and then the ID of the current element. This is done for each row, so each row has one ID. And basically we add here the ID from each. And we add the same information for each one of the elements, except for those that we want to change. So if we show all, we can come here to feedback, we can put none to make sure that at least something is written, and the review necessary, we move it to no. That way, if people forget to provide feedback, we assume they have no feedback, and we assume they have no need for the meeting. This will clean the feedback table, and now the process can start back again on Monday at 8 AM. This will also stop the whole flow, and it will make it ready to trigger again on Monday morning. If you found this useful and you need some help in any of your developments, let me know on the link that you have in the description. And if you want to look for any other development or any other thing in the Power Platform, check out this video right here. You'll probably find it useful.